Hey there, I'm Ken. This is Canadian Retro Things. Welcome. Today I'm going to be testing some chips from my Commodore PET. And the test board may surprise you. I hadn't planned on doing another video about my Commodore PETs quite this soon, especially since none of the parts that I've ordered have arrived. Especially the Rominator, which I think is going to be absolutely crucial to getting these computers working. And unfortunately, everywhere I've looked online, they're currently on back order. Anyway, I found myself watching YouTube the other day. I was watching Rudy's Retro Intel. You may remember that name because he is the one that created and sent me this external monitor kit for the PET. So I'll put a link to his channel down in the description. I really think you should check it out because he does a lot of really cool stuff on there. Anyway, he was doing a video talking about how you can use an older model VIC-20 as a donor board for parts for getting a PET up and running, because obviously the older VIC-20s are a lot cheaper than the Commodore PETs. Unfortunately, the only VIC-20 that I have that fits this bill is in great working order, so I don't want to start using it as a donor board. But what I can do is I can use it as a test board for the chips out of the Commodore PET. And I'm going to take this one step further with being able to test even more chips from the Commodore PET with something else. All right, well, I have one little modification to do to my VIC-20, and then we can start testing some chips. So I guess the first thing to do is to introduce you to the things that I'm going to be using here today. But before I do that, I want to give a big thank you to the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. PCBWay, where you can have PCBs printed starting at only $5 for 10 boards. When you're trying to bring something like the Commodore PETs that I'm working on back to life, sometimes you need adapter boards to make the modern pieces fit when the originals are just not available anymore. Or you have to replace a part that's beyond repair. PCBWay can help you, and if this is your first time ordering, you get a $5 bonus when you sign up. That means that your first order could be just the cost of shipping. So why not visit PCBWay today at www.pcbway.com for fast and reliable service. This is my early edition VIC-20. Of course, it is identifiable from the outside by the fact that it's got the figure of 8 2-pin plug on the outside for the power. It's 9 volt AC. Now, both the newer version and the older version of the VIC-20 do have the chips that I'm looking for. It's just that they're more plentiful in this one, and it's a bigger board and easier to work with. So let's pop this open and take a look at the chips that I am looking for. The older VIC-20s here share 3 chips in common with the Commodore PET. That's these RAM chips here, which are 2114s. They're the same as the video RAM chips in the Commodore PET, which there's 2 of those in the Commodore PET. You've got 6522s right here. There's 1 of those in the Commodore PET. And of course, the 6502. So all 3 of those can be tested on this board. I just have to remove one of the chips from here so that I have an empty socket to put in, and I can use it to test because I do have my Penultimate Plus cartridge, which does have a test program on it. And here we have the newer version of the VIC-20, identifiable, of course, from the outside by the fact that it's got the round DIN plug for power on the side here. So let's pop the hood on this one and take a look inside. So with the newer VIC-20, what you want to look for is you've got 3 chips right here, which are all the 2114 chips. The 6522 chip up here, and your 6502 is over here. So those are the 3 that you'd be able to test. But I'm going to use my older board for testing, just because there's more room to work on that board. And the other test board that I'm going to be using is this right here. Some of you may recognize this as the ColecoVision I fixed a while back. And then I built a composite board for it. I actually still haven't finished this. I still have to actually get a PCB printed for this from, I wonder where I could get that done. Possibly PCBWay. Because right now this is just a project board. Anyways, it just so happens that the ColecoVision also uses the 4116 RAM that the Commodore PET uses. So I'll be able to test RAM chips in my ColecoVision. So on this board there is 9 2114 chips. I'm just going to desolder one kind of right in the middle here, probably like UE3 or UE4, just so it's quite obvious when I'm running the dead test cartridge to see which one is not working. Now I know in Rudy's video, he talked about how this is the board you need for getting the spare parts off of. And there is as I showed, the 2114 chips are on the other board, but there's only 3 of them. There's 9 of them on here, which, yeah, you've got a much better selection of parts for this board. So, let's desolder something. Okay. That one right there. And once I'm finished desoldering this, then I'm just going to stick a socket on there so that it's easy to change the chips back and forth. All right, the socket is in place here. So right there we got a socket. Now I can just put the chip back in there. I got to test it to make sure I didn't break anything. But for now, what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to take a zip socket here. I'm just going to attach it to the socket that I've already got in there. And then I can be easily taking the chips in and out. I guess it goes this way. Now, I could have put the zip socket right on the board, but that makes the height a little too high for, since this is a working board. I do have a board that's not in working order right now that I do plan on using these on to make a test board, but for now it's just going to be temporarily attached. And what we have here is the 16K board. So this one's going to be really easy to test the chips off of, because the chips that I need to test are the static RAM chips for the video RAM are right here, the 6502, and the 6522. And, as you can see, they're all socketed. So, easy to test. And this is the 32K board, and as you can see, the static RAM chips, not socketed. 6502 is socketed. The 6522 is not. So, I have some desoldering to do. And there we go, the 6522 is out. Those two SRAM chips are out. Now I just got to pop this 6502 out and we are ready to start testing all the chips from this board. And the first thing I am going to be checking is the original chip that I had in here. Make sure I didn't screw up anything on the board. Got the Penultimate Plus cartridge in there, the older version. Okay, that's a good sign. So go to Utilities, and I'm using the joystick to control this since I currently do not have a keyboard hooked up. So we'll run it through the dead test here and see that everything is actually working before I start testing the chips from the Commodore PET. All right, that is a big old check mark for that chip. Now, we'll take that one out. Insert chip number 1 from the 32K board. And here goes chip number 1 from the 32K board. Oh, and we are getting a garbled screen. Okay, well, that was in properly. Try that again. So if you hold the reset button down, you go into the dead test cartridge automatically if your computer is not booting up. And you can already see that showing a not proper thing on the color thing there. The R is wrong. And we've got a failure. And that is a big time failure. So, what does that tell me? That tells me that that video RAM chip is likely completely bad. So, X means bad chip. Now we'll put in the other one from that board. And we're also getting nothing with it. And, ooh, looks like the R in color has turned into a T. One of the character things. So, should give the same error in the same spot. Oh, it's even giving more errors. Interesting. X for that one too. Alright, I have the static RAM, the video RAM out of the 16K board. First one is in there. And And it's also giving a messed up picture. Although it's not giving any of the same initial visual cues of a problem. At least I'm surmising that, as they're older, they may have used. Oh. We're getting fails. Fails, fails, fails. All right. Well, let's try this one. Last chip and see if it does anything. Huh. Hey, actually, we have one that works. Okay, so that looks like maybe out of the... Forget what I was saying about the slower RAM. Looks like possibly one out of the 4 chips on the 2 boards there is actually working. All right, there we go. We actually have one out of those 4 chips that work. So that definitely could have been a problem with booting up either of those Commodore PETs. So none of them had actual proper working video chips or video RAM. And now I've moved on to checking the 6522, so I put it in this slot right here. And it looks like things are coming up normally. Joystick seems to be working. I know that one you'll get a messed up basic screen, missing a cursor, stuff like that, so. Okay, that all looks perfectly good. So let's go back to the menu and run diagnostics on this. All right, well, that went through and passed. So as the basic screen looked normal, this is all passed. I am giving that a big check mark. Last one that I have to do is the 6502 right here, so I will pop that out, put the one from the Commodore PET in, and we'll test that. Alright, I got the 6502 in there, so let's see if this even boots up. It booted up, so utilities, here we come. Now, of course, I haven't checked the 6502 or the 6522 from the other board. So if this passes, I'll do those off camera and I'll let you know what happens. All right, well, everything seems to be working just fine with this 6502, so it gets the check mark of joy. So as I said, I'll grab the 6502 and the 6522 out of the other board, check those, and yeah, I'll get back to you. So remember when I said I'd get back to you if I found anything interesting? Well, I'm testing out the other 6522 right here, As you can see on the computer screen up there, everything is passing. But if we exit to basic, there's no cursor. This is a classic sign of a bad chip in this spot right here. So I would have to say that this is a bad chip. If you're playing games on your C64 or Coco, I cannot stress enough how much easier it is to use modern cartridges for loading those games. Retro Rewind carries both the Kung Fu Flash cartridge for the C64 and the Coco SDC for the Coco. If you have original hardware, but not one of these cartridges, I think you should order one now. With these systems, both of these are my most used modern accessory, and if you use my discount code of CRT10, you will get 10% off your order. So visit www.retrorewind.ca for your Commodore and Coco needs. And don't forget to use CRT10 at checkout. Alright, I have the ColecoVision hooked up. Now it is time to just test that everything is still working here. So this is our control test. And of course the chip that I'm going to be swapping out is back here. So power on. It's working. All right, a little bit of Popeye. All right, this is working great. So let's swap out the chip. And see what happens. Okay, I've put in the first of the 2 RAM chips that I'm going to be testing today. I'm only going to test those 2 that I desoldered the other day because taking all of the chips out and testing them right now would be a lot of work. This is more, if you think you have a bad RAM chip, then you can test it with this. All right. Well, this looks like it's working. Okay, well, I guess I'm gonna play this for a while to just test it out. Because, you know, rough life, but somebody's got to do it. If something goes wrong, I'll let you know. Otherwise, we'll be testing that second chip next. Alright, and here we are to test the second of the 2 RAM chips that I'm testing out today. So here we go. And we've got a picture. So, before I do anything else, that gets the check mark of happiness. Alright, well, both those round chips are working just fine. Okay, well, this worked out good. All right, I have the 32K board all back together here. By the way, the second 6502 that I tested just gave me a black screen, so it was not working. And since I only had one VRAM chip, I've also got the VRAM out of the VIC-20 that I had previously taken off there so that I could test the chips off this board. So let's see if there is any difference to what we get on the screen now. right, well, still nothing. I am, however, not surprised considering how many chips on here were bad. I'm going to guess that there's probably a lot more bad chips on here. I tested out 10 chips today. 50% of them were working. And you know what that means? That means 5 out of the 10 chips were working, and that tells me that I probably have a really long road ahead of me to get one of these pets working. Now, you may be wondering why I didn't test out the 16K board. It's actually because when I took those ROM chips off the other day, I still have those 2 blank spots there, and I ran out of that size of sockets. So I have to hit up a store or order some in or something, but that is basically just going to be something I'm going to do on another day. I think I've looked at enough stuff today. So what was the purpose of this video? It was to show you that even if you don't own all of those expensive chip testers and everything else, that, yeah, if you have a decent little collection of retro hardware, computers and games and stuff, that you probably have something that you can test out potentially bad chips on. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget that a like, a subscribe, and a comment below are all things that help the channel out a lot and are greatly appreciated. And an especially big thank you to Rudy's Retro Intel for the inspiration for doing this video. Alright, well, until next time, have a great day.